You're listening to Trigger Warnings. Yes, it's Trigger Warnings. Challenging Talk Radio. Featuring Dr. Chris Smith on the banjo. And Dr. John Ross. He's on the line from the city of Chicago.
Am I supposed to sing hello? Hello.
Hello, and welcome to Trigger Warnings, Challenging Talk Radio. With radical empathy at its core, show number 15. John Ross is on the line in Chicago. I'm Chris Smith here in the high desert. And we've got a show for you today, folks, as we move further into the new period of American democracy. Right, John?
Yeah, if you want to call it democracy.
I mean, it has to be American democracy. By definition, it is not any other thing. It continues to be, whether it's subverted or not. He is my president. It doesn't matter how many words he knows or doesn't know. It doesn't matter what he says. The great American experiment continues, right?
I'm not sure.
Oh,
I think we're going backwards, and it's not just because of who the president is, but I think in part it's because of the way people on all sides are responding to who the president is. And and I think much of that, both of the actions and demeanor of the president, as well as the actions of those supporting him and protesting against him, are anti-democratic. So if this is an experiment, can we pull a different rabbit out of the hat?
You believe that people's response to President Trump has been anti-democratic. Can you give me an example?
Some people respond.
Some people. I think that the Women's March, the responses in airports and on the street to the travel ban, aka maybe Muslim ban to be, I think those are very appropriate, very democratic. I think that the desire of Trump supporters to be more out in the public eye and to share their views and express their views, as long as those views are not directly taking violent action against other people, I think they're fine in democracy. It's the belief that people on the far right can go out and try to intimidate people physically, and the resistance of people on the far left, if we even call anarchists far left, like we saw in two instances this week, not just to demonstrate, to deny people who they oppose the right to speak at all, but to create violence and damage and in the process of stopping that. I think those are anti-democratic. So I think this experiment you talk about is, I'm not sure we're going in the right direction with it, frankly. Yeah, on our last program, we walked through the Bill of Rights, and we talked about the freedom of speech, and we talked about the question, when is it okay to punch a Nazi? And I think you can go yourself and scroll back on this YouTube channel and find out what that conversation was, but I think we identified a constitutional right to not get punched in the nose.
I said that even if you're Richard Spencer or Milo Yiannopoulos, you have a constitutional right not to get punched in the face, and you have a constitutional right to speak, no matter how stupid or offensive your views are.
You have a right to speak. That does not preclude all social media platforms.
No, apparently in the case of Twitter, it does not, because Twitter has not, at least Yiannopoulos has gotten rid of his account. But I think we're going into, and then we should talk about that, because there were two significant incidents this week, both involving, one involving Yiannopoulos, and then one last night involving some admitted Western chauvinist, Gavin McInnes in New York City. I'd never heard of Gavin McInnes, but he was at NYU, and protesters shut him down so that he couldn't, or he was trying to speak, but it didn't really happen. Earlier in the week, of course, at Berkeley, the birthplace of the free speech movement, Yiannopoulos was denied a chance to speak by a large mob that included roughly 100. They're called the Black Bloc, the ones who dress in all black and set things on fire and do stuff. And that, of course, which not only caused a lot of property damage and some minor injuries, caused the president, of course, to go to do, a whole series of Trump tweets threatening Berkeley with loss of federal funds. We are not going in the right direction.
No.
And,
I'm sorry. I will not concur, John. I will not concur.
Yes, sir.
And you are letting a very small minority represent a very, very large majority. The Black Bloc were present in Washington, D.C. for the inauguration, and the Black Bloc caused some pretty significant property damage.
They did.
Meanwhile, millions of Americans took to the streets in not even civil disobedience, simply peaceable assembly. And I think that that's important to recognize. The Black Bloc, much like everything else, there's going to be that fringe element. And among the protesters, there are going to be a fringe element that act untoward towards the democracy that they're rallying in favor of. And I've got to keep that lens on this. Maybe it's how I go down with the ship. But I refuse to look at it in any other way than people are protesting in UCLA and other places, and some are making bad decisions in that process of protesting, and many are making good decisions about exerting their constitutional right to free speech. So I've got to keep differentiating on that, and I've got to keep understanding the fringe. And I'm going to always have blinders to think that the people that are there are in favor of the constitutional democracy, constitutional representational democracy that we live under, right?
Generally, I would agree. You're right.
Thank
but
you.
At the Berkeley incident with Yiannopoulos, many faculty members had petitioned the university not to allow him to speak at all, to cancel the speech. The people who damaged property and tore things up and set things on fire are predominantly people who are considered from the outside, although clearly some of the people in the Black Bloc are members of Berkeley student body, faculty, staff. But I don't think it was as small a chunk as you're suggesting. It was a small chunk that created the damage, the physical, the violence, etc. But there was a very significant block of folks within the university, within the mainstream of the university, who petitioned the university not to allow him to speak, as they have at other universities petitioned to not allow Richard Spencer and others from the far right, or people they generally don't agree with, to speak. And you and I, as people who teach in universities, have taught in universities and colleges, etc., who started off this show 15 units ago, saying that we don't believe in safe spaces, designated physical safe spaces, from other people's right to speak and to be offensive. I think I certainly hold to that. So yeah, there's a significant degree of accuracy to what you said there, but the Berkeley incident and UCLA incident and others, UC Davis, others, are not. It's not that clear that it's a very, very, very small number of people within campus communities who are making it bad or making everybody else look bad.
Yes.
There's clearly a significant population on college campuses that does not want to hear, even allow other people to hear, the views of those they violently disagree with. And I think that the best way to get rid of the Yiannopoulos and Richard Spencers of the world is to let them prove themselves to be idiots and crazies in the public sphere, and let them get shouted down, let them get demonstrated out, let them, whatever. I think they only are going to be boosted by perception or the mainstreaming that their views, that they're having their First Amendment rights denied, which technically, in some cases they are if the university shuts down their invitation or doesn't allow them to speak.
Well, you know what's neat is people are making a lot of choices these days. When you get your driver's license, you get to make a choice about, am I going to drive my car like a maniac? Or am I going to drive my car like an idiot? Or am I going to learn how to drive it in a reasonable fashion? When, you go to a restaurant, you have to make choices about what you're going to eat and how much you're going to tip. And sometimes these choices confront us with skills. I'm going to choose to play the banjo. Do I know how? Will it matter? And like any skill, protesting is something that I think people are learning how to do.
Well, some people are learning how to do it.
Everybody's learning how to do it. Some people are failing at that learning. They're trying and they're failing. And some people are trying and succeeding. And I'd say
it depends on how you define succeed and fail. If you're talking about the people who organized the Women's March, if you're talking about those who quickly organized a couple thousand people to go to JFK Airport or O'Hare here or other airports in protest, not just in protest, but actually like sending people in who can help, lawyers and social workers and others, to protest, to coordinate the response to the travel ban. If those are considered successes, I'm with you. If the definition of success in protest is to deny others the right to speak, and to essentially be the judge and jury, or the members of the jury with the biggest mouthpieces and the loudest voices to squelch out any dissent, including from those who agree with you but think other people should have the right to speak, I don't think that's the definition of success.
It was like the night before UCLA, the night or two before, Milo played Denver on a college campus. There were no riots. There was a major, major protest. There were 3 times, I'm paraphrasing the news that I heard, there were 300 times the people outside than there were inside, right? And it was peaceable. And what made the news was that more people showed up to be outside than inside. And is the effect of a protest to capture the media cycle regarding that event? Is that the only necessary end goal to a protest? Hey, there's people at the airport. Why? Well, that's the only news story. We only have to ask why. That's the only thing we can talk about, is why are they doing that? And suddenly that message is in the mainstream. So protest as a skill, protest as a learned skill. I'm not necessarily going to start a correspondence school about it, but I believe that many people coast to coast are learning how to do it right now. I asked Google how to protest. You want to know what I got?
Tell me, please.
I got, how many steps is this? All right, well, there's part 1 and part 2 and part 3. Oh, no. Are you ready? We'll go quickly. Thank you to wikihow.com/protest, how to protest. Part 1, organizing. There's a nice picture of a white man, cartoonish, putting on a hat with a broom behind him. And it says, set a goal. Protests can function as a way to spread awareness about an issue or put pressure on those in power to make a specific change. You may have a more specific goal, like trying to prevent an adult business from moving into your neighborhood. In some cases, your goal may be quite large in scale, like you're protesting a war or a governmental policy. So after you pick the goal and identify what you are protesting against, and I gotta say, I think that there's a lot of folks right now that I think we could be doing a better job of picking a goal. Sometimes it is very clear against a certain executive order protest, and sometimes it's all over the map protests, right?
Right.
Step 2, choose a location. Find a location that is practical, symbolic, or convenient, or all 3. It should be one that helps you reach your target audience so the protest is as effective as possible. This could be the sidewalk in front of Trump Tower. It doesn't say that. It says a business. A public street corner, the courthouse, the Capitol building with a lowercase c, or a park that has historically been used for protests in your city. Now, that doesn't mean Zuccotti Park is fair game. Your privately owned public spaces create a difficult situation for protests. But it has to be public. Pick a time. Get a permit. Do you have to get a permit for to protest where you live, John?
It depends on where you're protesting.
In some cases, the permit will set limits on how many people can gather, how much noise you can make, and where the protesters can move about. If you disagree with the terms, you can contact an attorney to help you to try to get them altered. Some cities don't issue protest permits. If you're expecting a large crowd to come to the protest, you should alert the police department anyway. True?
Well, that's what happened here in Chicago with the Women's March. They had to cancel the march because there were too many people, even for what was permitted and policed. So they just had the rally.
If you're trying to organize a protest, how do you know how many people are going to attend?
You go to the National Park Service, obviously.
The real one or
you
the
get
rogue
aerial
one?
photographs from the National Park Service.
Plan the sequence of events. Have community leaders introduce the protest, make speeches, have an MC who can lead protest chants and songs, and have bands that play protest music or at least a banjo. Plan a march from one location to another. This is a classic form of protesting that helps bring widespread attention to a cause. John, if you were organizing a protest, if you could pick any 2 places in the United States to have a large group of people march with you for your cause, what would that location be?
Mount Rush, the face of Mount Rushmore, and
off the face of Mount Rushmore, like lemmings?
no, not off the face. Mount Rushmore with all the faces behind, and or was also known as the presidential Facebook, and
that's good.
That's and good. The mall, of course, the mall with the Capitol and the Washington Monument framing you. That's what I would do.
Here's one that I don't think people have embraced enough yet. Consider having a sit-in or sleep-in, occupying a space until your demands are met.
Who wrote this?
This is from wikihow.com/protest.
Wonderful.
Step 6, publicize. There's a cartoon picture of a man holding a newspaper. You can see from the 4 fingers showing on either side that he is a white man. Publicize the protest. Take this important step to make sure your protest gets as much attention as possible. The aim isn't just to encourage people to show up for the protest, but to capture the attention of the media too. Pull out all the stops to spread the word starting a few weeks before the protest. Do you agree, John? Pull out all the stops? And if so, what does
I
that
don't know
mean
what-
to you?
I don't know what all the stops are. That's unusual. But okay, if you hum a few bars, I'll take it.
Part 2, getting prepared. Here's a white man or woman in a purple shirt holding a cartoon sign that says "We protest," which is a good sign to keep handy. I recommend
Really good. In case people can't tell why you're there.
bring your well, no, you know what? I think the age of the meme during the election of 2016 may morph. Look out, buddy. It may morph into the era of the cardboard sign. Because if you are going to protest the Women's March, set the bar pretty darn high as far as if you're going to bother with a big chunk of cardboard above your head, it's going to say something, and it might as well even have legs if someone were to take pictures of it and post them online, which you kind of expect people to do. So I saw some really cool signs.
Yeah, there were some cool signs.
During the protest, you can give out information on what you're protesting. You might want to put the name of the group with which you're affiliated on your protest materials.
Okay, wait a minute. Stop. This is making me sick. I had lunch not too long ago.
All right, it gets even more concrete. Step 2, getting prepared. There's a picture, and there is no white person in this cartoon picture. It is a picture of a baseball cap. It is red with a black brim. Wear protective clothing. You can keep yourself safer at a protest by dressing appropriately for the occasion. Dress for comfort. You may be standing or walking for several hours. And for safety, just in case you get jostled by the crowd or caught in the middle of an escalating conflict between Nazis, here are some tips. John, ready? Maybe we should just be ready for these at any moment. Wear comfortable tennis shoes. That is, be ready to run. Wear several layers of thick clothing so you have extra padding on your body. Oh, that's grim. If you plan to be on the front lines of a protest that could easily escalate, wear protective eyewear. I like that idea.
Okay, this is Chris. This is ridiculous.
This is not ridiculous.
This is ridiculous.
I think, you know what? How many people do you think are right now looking at this webpage? I asked Google how to protest, and this is link number 1. And WikiHow will teach you how to change your oil or any other thing, how to hang a door. It's been a reputable source for how-tos. I think it's, it's kind of like the blah, blah, blah for dummies series.
Well, see, the thing is that in addition to these demonstrations, the other thing I wanted to get at is other ways people are protesting and that do not involve an actual event.
Why would you want to bring a bandana soaked in apple cider vinegar stored in a plastic bag with you to any given protest?
So that if there's crisis, you can wrap it around your head, your face turns red, and the ambulance gets you faster.
No, apple cider vinegar, according to WikiHow.com, is said to help combat the debilitating effects of tear gas long enough for you to get to safety. I think that's some sound advice.
It's amazing. So,
you're annoyed that suddenly I've launched into this how to protest.
So no, but I mean, see, here's where I'm divided. I think it's pretty clear that acting to deny other people's First Amendment rights, even if they're repulsive people, and let me give a parallel to this. God, one of his normal days, the president, while he was just president-elect, said, we ought to do something about people who burn flags. It ought to be illegal. They ought to be, set out of the country or something. Now, that was settled by the Supreme Court many years ago. The Supreme Court said, just because somebody burning the flag offends you does not mean that it should be illegal, unless the person is waving the burned flag at you as a weapon and threatening to incinerate you. It is protected speech, and therefore any flag burning laws cannot be equal. That's the parallel here, because people on the left heard that and said, uh-oh, here we go. Here comes the fascist who doesn't know law, or doesn't care what the law is, or doesn't even know what the Constitution is. And that is an appropriate response to what Trump said. And the parallel to me is what's going on here, what we've talked about. But the other issues that are very prominent here, and I really don't know where they go, is how citizens, and these are mostly online social media types of protests, how citizens now are trying to influence the way companies they use or they solicit or they give their money to are behaving based on whether certain consumers think that the company is supportive of the current regime or not. So, for example, when the travel ban went into effect last week and there were protests, taxi drivers, many of whom are immigrants, some of whom are from the 7 countries that are affected by the travel ban, refused en masse to go to Kennedy Airport and pick people up, right? Uber drivers did not do that, perhaps because nothing on their apps told them that they shouldn't be doing that because they're all independent contractors and they went. There was a lot of brushback on Uber. Uber then announced it was going to contribute $3 million to legal defense funds for immigrants, et cetera. Its CEO, Travis Kalanick, not High Kalanick, but Kalanick with a K, yesterday quit the President's Council of Business Leaders before its first meeting today because he's under a lot of heat. There are demonstrations in San Francisco against Uber. Uber's main competitor, Lyft, in fact, had the first week in its history where it had more downloads of its app by prospective drivers and users than did Uber. And so, we now have corporations taking political positions, not just on the specific policies of the administration, but even saying, gosh, if I'm seen in public shaking the president's hand, we're going to have boycotts on our hands. I better find a way to get off this presidential executive business council, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm not sure how I feel about these things. And it's now called grab your wallet.
What did you say about San Francisco? San Francisco?
There were demonstrations outside of Uber headquarters in San Francisco because the CEO was on Trump's business council. Right? Now, being on the president's business council does not necessarily mean you support him. And several people, and this is the other article I sent you today, several people who were mentioned in that Washington Post thing I sent you today said, look, first of all, the president calls me to be an advisor or to give him advice about something. That doesn't mean I'm supporting him or voting for him. It also means that as a CEO, he sees me at a certain level where I can walk right up to him and say something that I disagree with or find troublesome that I couldn't say in any other place or that other average citizens can't. And
I understand what you're saying. I understand what you're saying.
All I'm saying is I don't know how I feel about this. That's all I'm saying.
I believe that the idea to resist the Trump administration has led to people wanting to stand in front of the Uber headquarters and has led to the Uber CEO second-guessing whether he wants to be involved. Where is President Trump trying to assemble a business council that is, as we think of our colleges and universities, a marketplace of ideas? Or is he trying to surround himself with people that he agrees with and that he expects will agree with him? I believe it to be the latter. I believe him to be a sociopath. So when it comes back to that's me. So I believe he is to be resisted to that point. If you want to boycott Uber, go for it. If you want to stand in the street in front of Uber headquarters in San Francisco, I return to where I was. Your arguments won't be taken as seriously if disrespectful actions are taken. So please avoid the following and encourage fellow protesters to do the same. yelling insults at people who disagree with you, vandalizing public or private property, spitting or throwing water, or resorting to violence of any kind. Once again, I think those that are protesting the Uber headquarters, fantastic. Go for it. But please know your argument won't be taken as seriously if disrespectful actions are taken.
Well, so here are what other members of that Presidential Advisory Council, whatever it's called, did, and the meeting apparently was today. Elon Musk is on that committee. I don't get the impression that Elon Musk is a Trump supporter. He said today he was going to the meeting and he was going to express his objections to the executive order on immigration and offer suggestions for changes to the policy. The CEO, the Cleveland Clinic CEO, maybe the top hospital in America, is on that council. And he was going to speak to the president directly about the travel ban. One of his residents, who's a Sudanese citizen, is stuck in Sudan, a victim of the travel ban. He's going to talk to him. Should we, are we going to boycott the Cleveland Clinic? It's like, there is, again, this is polarization on all levels. I suppose I should pull my money out of J.P. Morgan Chase Bank because the CEO, Jamie Dimon, not only is on that executive committee and apparently went to the meeting today, but also went to a lovely dinner party for members of that council at Ivanka Trump's house last night, or Kushner, whatever she's calling herself. I don't know. I mean, you see why I'm scratching my head here on the other side of the wire?
Yes, the word complicit is something that we talked about last week, and under the umbrella of put your money, what left of it that you have, put your money where your mouth is. To what extent does that mean I can't buy a Tesla, I can't buy on Amazon, I need to pull out of JP Morgan? And I encourage everybody to make good choices. Decide how far you want to go. If you're considering civil disobedience as part of your protest strategy, think carefully before taking action, says this webpage. I would add that be sure you're putting your money where your mouth is, or at least if you know that you're not, try to minimize the impact. If you can't do anything but eat at Carl's Jr., then tip the person behind there, or do something to counteract in the way that we thought about, let's buy carbon shares and offset our carbon usage, right? Let's try to offset the way that we spend money and support politicians. Now, should I never buy a Tesla because Elon Musk went so far as to speak to the man? No. Do I think that politicians need to work? Do politicians need to work with Trump? Yes. Do business people? No. Do entertainers? Absolutely not. There are choices to be made. Elon Musk could have written him a public letter, which would have had way more legs than, look, I'm going to go to Trump Tower and say such and such. Hell, Al Gore could have written all kinds of fiery screed and said, no, I'm not going to meet with the man. Or, yes, I did, and guess what? I secretly recorded it. He's going to sue me, but in the name of social justice, I'm Al Gore. Right? That would have been awesome. And I hope that people find more ever creative ways to resist. That does not mean to alienate to the point of dysfunction. I defer to my Senator Bernie Sanders on that. And Bernie has led the charge that we have to work with him. And it's a case-by-case situation with him. He will only talk about one issue at a time. And I think that's appropriate.
But I mean, isn't that so? But doesn't that apply to a CEO of any company? I mean, CEOs have bottom lines to worry about. They have employees to worry about. Many of these people. There's another story in the article I sent you of a guy who's running a very fast-growing sandwich shop chain in Washington, D.C. I'm trying to find the name of it. His name is Casey Patton. The name of the company is Taylor Gourmet. It's a sandwich chain. He attended a ceremony on small business last week at the White House. He'd been to ceremonies at the Obama White House. The president invites me, I go. He prepared for the meeting. He prepared to tell the president and did at the meeting that half of the 300-plus employees he hires are immigrants and that his employees are nervous. And then he started getting boycotts and nasty social media contacts from food bloggers and liberal activists that were going to boycott you because you went to the White House. And he went to every one of his shops this week, reassuring his employees. So there are people that are setting up boycotts just because he was invited to the White House and went to a meeting about small businesses. And
well, it is the dawn of a new era of corporate responsibility. That's what that is. And no, it's not. It's not right, and it's not pretty. It's not the way it's supposed to work. But I don't think that kind of accountability has not existed previously. It is putting CEOs in difficult positions. It is creating massive boycotts and massive, actions. This is all new stuff.
There's a big boycott against Starbucks because Starbucks said it would hire 10,000 refugees over the next 10 years, and that got the pro-ban, pro-Trump people upset, and they're organizing a boycott against Starbucks. And this is percolating more and more, it seems, into an even deeper. It's not just a left-right thing. It's really this kind of urban, non-urban split. The reason why Uber is so susceptible to boycotts and outrage is because it is an urban, not just headquartered in an urban area. It's an urban service, and so it's a significant share of its drivers and users is non-white. An overwhelming share of its drivers and users, I would think, given that it's centered in major urban areas, is anti-Trump, is Democratic, etc. So I mean, there's another. Some of this is understanding your customer base, understanding your stakeholders. Some of it is that. But this seems, I don't know, this seems awfully dark to me. And I can't necessarily point to any one example of the corporate side of this. I can point to the Berkeley examples, and I can point to what's happening at some of these rallies between anarchists and the hard right, where there actually are people getting shot and stabbed. And I'm not just talking about Richard Spencer getting attacked by a Black Bloc person in Washington, but there was a pre-inauguration day event in Seattle where a Black Bloc person got shot by a alt-righter, et cetera. But the corporate stuff, the consumer-driven boycott protest stuff about a specific company and your response to how you feel about its CEO shaking hands with the president or not responding to the executive order quickly enough or whatever. I'm not sure where I come down on that, but it makes me feel it's very dark. That's
well, let me. You're listening to Trigger Warnings, Challenging Talk Radio, radical empathy at its core. John Ross, Chris Smith, and I went through these steps on how to protest from WikiHow.com to start off the show. That's led us down a road. John, let me throw you the community Q&A, some questions that people had after reading this webpage. How do I protest to overthrow a new president? After they read this, that's their question. Do you have any response?
Yeah, you go to the streets, you protest specific actions, you organize other people, you get people to go out in their congressional districts and state legislative districts and actually pay attention to local elections and vote, especially if you live in a state that's going to have a governor's election next year, and you turn out recalcitrants who don't show up at midterm elections, who vote at the rate of only 20-30%, and you drag them out to the polls and you motivate. That's how you get rid of the president. Now, you may not get rid of them outside of an election.
Can I protest against Donald Trump?
Can you or may you?
It says, can I?
Well, it's bad grammar. The answer is yes, you may.
Third question, how should I protest to get a new president to be thrown out of office?
I just answered that question a minute ago.
You did. I am hoping to start a protest in Australia for anonymous people. How can I gather people together, and how can we defend against possible violence from police?
Well, let me make a specific statement about that.
John Ross answers your questions about protest.
I'm Dr. Protest, and we need like a Dr. Phil for the protest movement. First of all, if you're writing from Australia, I just want you to know that you're a very dangerous country, and that if you mobilize all those kangaroos against us, we're in trouble. And that's why our president does not want to take your semi-illegal immigrants, you purveyors of a prison, because that's what Australia is, right? Australia was a penal colony.
Right.
There you go. We did, and I think that's spelled Penal, but for all I know, it might be the other spelling.
Would it be okay to protest against raising minimum wage and the cost of living?
Protesting against raising the minimum wage?
Yes. Would it be okay?
Yeah. This is America, baby. Protest whatever you want.
How do I protest in the U.S., specifically Texas, to allow unnaturally colored hair in schools?
Here, okay, step one. Look at yourself in the mirror. Step two, decide if that person in the mirror really should have differently colored hair to begin with. Step three, if the answer is no, move on. Step four, if the answer is yes, find another cause.
John, the final question, how do you protest about terrible school lunch?
I told you, projectile vomit. That's what you do. They tried that here in Chicago when David Axelrod interviewed Sean Spicer, and one of the protester came out and started projectile vomiting, but all that happened was he got arrested, and then they gave him the bill to clean the carpet. So,
The answer written here on wikihow.com, you claim that the system is corrupt and that you must start a school-wide revolution to rid your school of terrible lunches.
Or you can say, observe the what is it, inherent in the system, the corruption.
Oh, come and see the violence inherent in the system.
Come and see the violence inherent in the system.
Help. I'm being repressed. No, I really, I do not believe that violence is inherent in our constitutional representational democracy. I do not believe that. Do you?
I do not. I'm with you.
Now, that does not mean... throwing crates of tea into Boston Harbor could be taken to be a violent event, but the crates of tea had no blood to shed. I think there's a fine line to be understood there, and I think that people are trying to better understand it. Right?
I have no problem with throwing tea into the harbor, even though that's destruction of property. I have a problem with denying others' rights, and drinking tea is not really an inalienable right, because you can drink tea if it's not that tea.
Do you know who Paul Simon? One of his greatest lyrics. It was, "All of my wealth won't buy me health, and so I smoke a pint of tea a day." Isn't that lovely? So here on Trigger Warnings, I've got a quiz for John based on this week's news.
Okay.
Multiple choice. Okay, and I believe we got like 13 questions or so. Number one.
We'll zip right through them. You don't worry about that.
Trump used the national prayer breakfast to A, put Iran on notice, B, announce the capture of those responsible for the Bowling Green massacre, C, talk about the ratings of his television program, or D, announce sanctions against Japan. Yes,
and to promote Kelly for talking about the Bowling Green massacre.
Say that again. What?
And to promote Kellyanne Conway for referencing the Bowling Green massacre.
Yeah, I had to throw that in there. No, the answer's C. You knew that. It was to talk about the ratings of The Apprentice, right? And even the star of The Apprentice has come out in response to that. I encourage you to learn more. Who came out against Trump's immigration policies this week? A, Newt Gingrich. B, the Koch brothers. C, Mad Dog Dick Cheney. Or D, none of the above.
The Koch brothers kind of came out against it, but I don't think they demonstrated. I think they just said that they're kind of being quiet. So I'm going to say it's D.
No, the answer is Mad Dog Dick.
Dick Cheney came out against it? Really?
Yes, he did. All right, question 3. In her teens, Kellyanne Conway spent 8 summers on a farm in New Jersey. What crop did she pick? Was it A, grapes, B, chestnuts, C, tomatoes, or D, blueberries?
Well, New Jersey is famous for its tomatoes. So, however, the Cosmo article apparently the Cosmo article says it's blueberries.
It is blueberries. It is blueberries. Okay.
She's not looking good. Have you noticed she's not looking good? She's looking very wan, W-A-N, not Latino. She's looking very sickly. Maybe she's too skinny. I'm not sure.
Before becoming Trump's campaign manager, Kellyanne Conway and her company worked for, whose campaign? You know whose campaign.
Ted Cruz.
Ted Cruz. Which is an actual quote from Kellyanne Conway's organization criticizing Donald Trump. Is it A, a man who's
not presidential?
No, I've got 4 quotes for you.
Okay.
A man who seems to be offending his way to the nomination. B, a man without reason or rhyme, as viable a candidate as Pee Wee Herman. C, some are born great, some achieve greatness, and some have greatness thrust upon them. Or D, yeah, he's obnoxious. Yeah, he cuts people off. Yeah, he's rude. You know why? Because you're busy.
Ooh. That's a good one.
By
the way, she was a blueberry. She was the blueberry.
I said blueberry. I told you. I know. Cosmo said it. I said
No. She didn't pick blueberries. She not only picked them, she was the blueberry princess of the entire state.
Oh, I didn't know
that.
That's
a big deal. That's a big deal.
That's lovely. Okay, back to the
answer,
task at hand.
The answer is A.
Do you need the quotes again?
No, the answer is A.
The answer is A. Kellyanne Conway's organization was working for the Ted Cruz campaign when she said he was, quote, a man who seems to be offending his way to the nomination. Now, who answered D? Whose paraphrase was that? The actual quote is, yeah, I'm obnoxious. Yeah, I cut people off. Yeah, I'm rude. You know why? Because you're busy.
That's from a movie, but I don't remember which movie.
It is not from a movie. Well, kind of from a movie. It's from a character.
I don't know.
Bill O'Reilly. Bill O'Reilly. And it was answer C that you were thinking of a movie. Some are born great, some achieve greatness, and some have greatness thrust upon them.
I didn't realize that was a movie. From a movie.
Well, it's been made into a movie.
It was I don't know who it was.
That's right, it's 12th Night.
Oh,
Yes.
by the way,
Okay.
we've had a commercial, a Super Bowl commercial has been censored and taken off the air.
I did not realize that. What is it?
Um, um, Pittsburgh-based building materials company 84 Lumber has a Super Bowl ad for the first time in its history, but you won't see the full clip on television. This is Cosmo. Cosmo is being very politically aware this week because it's political. The ad features a mother and daughter who go on a harrowing journey, seemingly to reach the United States from Latin America. But the initial ad was rejected because it featured a border wall.
Oh.
You will see an edited version of the ad during the Super Bowl, where it is edited prior to the scene with the border wall, and it sends you to the website to watch the conclusion online.
My goodness. And what is the company?
84 Lumber.
Oh, okay.
Because there is a town in West Pennsylvania called 84, and I think
That's
that's what the
right.
company is.
You think, and therefore now it's true. Get ready.
I
According
think, therefore, I demonstrate.
That's right. According to an article in the San Francisco Gate about Ruth Bader Ginsburg's health, many liberals are brainstorming ways to keep Ruth Bader Ginsburg, Supreme Court Justice, healthy for the next 4 years, which is not one way projected to preserve the health of the notorious RBG in the article. Is it A, to get her to eat more kale, B, to get a crowd of gay people to encircle her and protect her at all times, or is it C, get her a clean room and a staff to keep surfaces disinfected? Which of those is not a way supposed to keep the RBG safe for the next 4 years?
The one that sounds the most simple and sensible is A. There is not a campaign to get her to eat more kale.
No, I'm sorry, it's C. It's the clean room. In the article in the San Francisco Gate, someone said, well, we should get her to eat more kale. And then someone said, I could organize the gays. And we could just walk around her for the next 4 years, keeping her safe. Oh. According to it's a heavy week, man. It's a heavy week. We got to keep going. According to a Rasmussen poll conducted last month among 1,000 likely voters, what percentage said that the politics, that politics in general has negatively affected a personal relationship with a family or friend? What percent said that that has taken place? Was it 20, 30, 40, or 50?
40.
That's right, 40%. Through negotiating a deal between entertainment companies in the early 90s, Steve Bannon ended up owning a financial stake in what television program?
Seinfeld.
Oh, I don't even get to read the answers? All right.
But please read the other ones. I could be wrong.
The answers were, was it A, Seinfeld, B, Pee-wee's Playhouse, C, Democracy Now!, or D, none of the above? All right, but this is a good one. You'll love this. Who said
I
this?
love that.
Who said this quote? We think of ourselves as virulently anti-establishment, particularly anti the permanent political class. Was it A, Allen Ginsberg, B, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, C, Alan Greenspan, D, Allen Iverson, E, Steve Allen, or F, Woody Allen?
What, can you repeat that quote, please?
We think of ourselves as virulently anti-establishment, particularly anti the permanent political class. Was that Allen Ginsberg, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, Alan Greenspan, Allen Iverson, Steve Allen, or Woody Allen?
It was the first one.
Allen Ginsberg, the beat poet?
Allen Ginsberg.
No, I'm sorry. The answer is Steve Bannon.
Oh, I forgot about him. I'm sorry.
He's everywhere, see? He's everywhere. I don't have to say his name. You know he's there.
He's on the cover of Time magazine this week, looking very scary.
Okay, who is playing in the Super Bowl this weekend? Is it A, the Patriots versus the Seahawks? B, Lady Gaga versus Grab 'em by the Pussy culture? C, The Apprentice versus the Terminator? Or D, neoliberal postmodernism versus alt-fact pragmatism?
Well, I think, given that it is being broadcast on Fox and it's in Houston, I think it's safe to say that Lady Gaga will be up against that culture, and she will win.
You're right. I think that you've either gotten them all wrong or all right on this quiz.
She is the halftime show.
I know.
And I would actually watch it just to watch her because I think she's great. I think I love her. She's fantastic.
Okay, I got 1, 2, 3. I got 5 more questions for you.
Okay, we will zip through them. Yes.
A stage adaptation of 1984 will open on Broadway on. Is it A, January 20th, 2018, Kellyanne Conway's 23rd birthday? B, August 16th, 2017, Elvis's birthday? C, July 4th, 2017, or D, June 22nd, 2017?
July 4th.
No, June 22nd.
Oh, come on. I get half credit for it because it's close.
Well, Kellyanne Conway is not going to turn 23, and Elvis died on the 16th of August, not
right.
Allegedly. So, after Trump supporters walked out of this person's performance in Tampa, Florida this week, this comedian issued a statement. This statement said in part that, quote, "After the show, I want you to know that I will go straight to a rehab facility that will teach me how to make all people happy. Both the rich, entitled white people who are going to vote for him and the very poor people who've been tricked into it." Which comedian said that? Was it A, Kellyanne Conway, B, Megyn Kelly, C, Moms Mabley, D, Sarah Silverman, E, Sarah Lawrence, or F, Amy Schumer?
Well, see, I immediately thought of Amy Schumer.
It is Amy Schumer. Yes.
Yeah, and I don't think Trump people would have gone to a. I don't think they would have gone to a Sarah Silverman concert because she would cry fake tears. But actually, it would be Amy Schumer who would cry fake tears because her uncle cries. Okay, I'm sorry, I got mixed up.
Which of these insults did that comedian actually say on stage that prompted the walkout? Was it A, bad-tempered asshole, B, orange, sexually assaulting fake college-starting monster, C, a moron, or D, that tangerine nightmare?
I like the second one very much. Tangerine nightmare wouldn't be enough to get rid of people. The one about the fake college starter.
That's correct. Let me just tell you that A, Stephen King called Donald Trump a bad-tempered asshole in a tweet. Bruce Springsteen from the stage of a concert said the Republic is under siege by a moron. And the Tangerine Nightmare line is one of my least favorite people, but a man that I know you still listen to, Bill Maher.
Yeah, you and I have to have a show on Bill Maher and why we because we don't disagree on much, but we disagree in total polls on that one.
Well, if we do a Bill Maher tribute show, then I'll work on my impression of Dennis Miller, and I'll do the whole show as Dennis Miller. 2 more questions, John. What issue will unite America's forgotten men and women? Do you want the multiple choice, or do you just want a short answer?
No, I will take the multiple choice.
Is it A, the militarization of our domestic police forces, B, a military draft to support war with Iran, C, a military draft to support war with North Korea, or D, all of the above?
And this is from whom? Whose position is this?
This is your question. This shows up on the quiz this week.
This is one that you wrote?
I think I wrote all of these, or I didn't.
Really, they're very good.
Thank you. I did. I will take credit for this. I'm taking credit because I did write it.
War with Iran.
Well, see, it really is designed as a short answer. So you believe it will be war with Iran?
No, I don't think it would be anything, frankly.
You don't think there will be an issue that will unite America's forgotten men and women?
No. Here's what it would be. It would be the privatization of the Veterans Administration.
Oh. Thank you. Your final
Because
question. Your final question.
That came up at the press briefing today.
That's a heavy duty one. Ready?
Yes.
The Resistance.
Yes.
A is underway. B will not be televised, but may be available online. C will be televised, but only in coordination with the White House. Or D will start on the coasts and reach the Rust Belt last.
I would say D. Although it's already here in Chicago, and we are part of the Rust Belt.
So the answer is A. The Resistance is underway.
The Resistance is underway. Yeah, okay. I'll take that.
Folks, thanks for tuning in to another episode of Trigger Warnings, Challenging Talk Radio, featuring John Ross in Chicago.
And are we going to end with this? The new feature we discussed?
Oh, John's got a Bob Dylan lyric. Every week we're going to throw you a Bob Dylan lyric that somehow represents the goings on of our times, the times that are a change, and maybe that's the name of the bit. The times they are a change in time.
Yeah, in honor of our poet, of our Nobel laureate, I think at the end of each show we should have a song or lyric of his that we think sums up the week that was. And given that you did not have adequate time to prepare, I will just offer mine, and if you have one, you can come up with it. Is that okay?
I did write the quiz.
You did write the quiz, so you don't have a Bob Dylan quote. My Bob Dylan quote of the week, or my Bob Dylan song of the week that I think is relevant to this week in the news, is from a song that I'm not terribly familiar with, but the lyric is, "It's not dark yet, but it's getting there." So the song is called "Not Dark Yet."
That is an excellent Bob Dylan song. I recommend everybody go check that out, and stay tuned for our next...
It's from Time Out of Mind. I mean, it's from a pretty...
Oh, it's from that recent one. That's right. I've heard that on one of those places where I hear music. Hey, John, thank you as always.
Thank you.
I think we're doing the democracy. I think we're doing the democracy a service in producing this podcast. Do you believe that?
I think we are. I think we are. We are trying to encourage others to think, even when they're angry, about being radically empathic.
And you can always tweet us. I don't think anyone ever has. At T, as in Thomas, __ warnings. T_warnings on Twitter. You can tweet me directly at Superhero Radio. John, you got anything you want to plug?
No, I'm not. I'm plugless today.
If you send me instructions on how to play the banjo on Twitter, I will acknowledge that. And
actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back next week with a how to protest the banjo. That's going to be my effort for the week.
You need a ukulele is what you need.
As much as I love the banjo, somebody needs to go.
I know. Well, next week, things even more hideous than the banjo here on Trigger Warnings, Challenging Talk Radio. Thanks again, John.
Yes, thank you, sir.